Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the 143. We are coming at you live with episode 162.
Yep, it's the annual Cowboys episode. We'll probably have a couple during this offseason as there's going to be a lot to dissect. Just have a lot of things to say because there's just a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that need to happen.
Are there moving parts?
Nothing
there
need to be
moving.
Some moving parts.
There do, and that's why we are coming to you now to bring you one of our ranting episodes. And one of these days, it might make its way all the way to Jerry's office, but probably not. And we just, us and all Cowboys fans right now are just so disappointed in the way the team was run last year and for the last 30 years. And we got a lot to say about it. So we'll start us off, though, with the stat of the week brought to you by our sponsor, Andrew's Logistics. Stat of the week is in the United States of America's hockey game versus Canada. There were 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of an exhibition game against Canada. That just shows you how much these players care. Obviously, we dominated the fights. We dominated Canada in the game.
They're practically the 51st state. Yeah.
And it's just great to see because compared to what was going on in the NBA at the time was the All-Star weekend and just the awful effort put forth by their players. Meanwhile, you've got the USA hockey team just duking it out 3 times in the first 9 seconds versus Canada. Love to see the spirit from the boys on the hockey team. And anyways, that was just cool to see. A lot of heart, a lot of effort, and a great win from the USA.
Yeah, obviously that was probably one of the most electrifying things you'll see in your life. 9 years in the making, because that was the last winter Olympics was when the last time they had all these teams together.
Yep.
They will be competing in the next Winter Olympics, which is 26.
Yeah, I think next year.
Believe.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting. And then your players of the week, couldn't choose one because you can't get one without the other, was the Tkachuk brothers, Brady and Matthew. Obviously, their dad, Keith Tkachuk, in the 90s was a big hockey name. And then, he was a huge part of Team USA back a long time ago. And then his 2 sons are just absolutely they're out there collecting scalps was what I noticed somebody used. That was the verbiage on Twitter. In the first game against Finland, they both had 2 goals. And then, they were 2 of the guys that were fighting on Saturday. And then, obviously, they're leading. I want to say, I think Brady had like 8 hits in the game against Finland and then had like 5 or 6 against Canada. And so, they're just the center of the heart of the team. They bring the energy and the intensity, obviously, straight off the bat on Saturday. They were talking about after the game how in the group chat they were talking about, they were going to, they didn't like Canada booing the national anthem. So they were going to, let them know.
Take care of business.
Right off the bat, which is absolutely what we should have done. But then the other thing, too, is we got to finish on Thursday. Okay.
Playing Canada once again, this time for all the marbles.
We're playing Sweden tonight. We're recording on Monday night, and it's midway through the 3rd period, and Team USA is losing, unfortunately. But, this is utterly a meaningless game. Just, keeping the legs fresh. On Thursday, it might be like this is possibly the biggest battle since like World War II or something. Since the United States. You're talking
about big.
This is probably one of the biggest sports rivalries.
Yep.
Just because on a national level, it's 2 nations clashing.
International level.
Yeah, international level, whatever, one of them. When you're an American, you get to do whatever you want.
That's true. That's true.
We are the greatest country in the world.
I mean, we're beating Canada at their own sport.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have another
We
sport.
don't even want them as a 51st state, actually.
No.
We need to get better at hockey, and then we'll want
And
them.
grow a backbone.
Yeah.
You know what? We're a sports podcast, not a political podcast. So we're going to dive into the sports. But tune in Thursday night. Like Nick said, one of the biggest battles since World War II in American history.
I mean, this is huge. This is what we'll be telling our grandchildren, 40 years from now or whatever.
Go USA. Hopefully we put them in their place. And, next week we'll come to you with some good news, hopefully. Mm-hmm. But make sure you tune in. And you know what? Let's talk about America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Tough season. We're not really going to dive into the games. It's not really about the games anymore because we've said time and time again, this is bigger than the players, than the coaches. This starts at the very top. This is all starting with Jerry and Steven. And the family, mainly just Jerry and Steven, making this more about business than it is about winning. And I'll let Nick take it away.
Yeah, obviously, like we say it a lot. It starts at the top and it trickles down. You can make all the changes you want, position-wise, coaching-wise, but at the end of the day, it's the top dog that needs to change. Not even that Jerry needs to sell the team, but just take a step back and just relinquish his role.
Not gonna do that
as the GM and hire a GM. Obviously, that would,
and hands off. Like, don't
that would
hire a GM.
Never happen.
Don't hire a GM and then tell the GM what to do. Like, hire a GM and step back.
So actually, honestly, at that point, just sell the team.
Just sell the team. Yeah, pretty much.
Obviously, this was probably one of the worst seasons we've seen in a good bit, because we've seen a couple 12-5 seasons in a row, and then this one was just absolutely abysmal.
I guess we really didn't get a chance to discuss the head coaching hire as much because we were right in the middle of playoffs when it happened. But Brian Schottenheimer, the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator, has been hired to be the head coach. It'll be a completely new coaching staff. I agreed with the decision to let go of Mike McCarthy. We've been saying that for a while. But the thing is, Brian Schottenheimer is 27 years in the NFL, has never once had a head coaching interview. His offenses that he's been in charge of have not been great. This past year, he was offensive coordinator. Our offense was pathetic. And obviously, he wasn't even calling the plays. So I'm not really sure how we're going to look come next season. I don't really know much about Brian Schottenheimer. He seems like a good dude through his interview. But the thing is, he just kind of seems like every other coach. He seems like another Jason Garrett, essentially.
Obviously, there's probably a reason why he hasn't been a head coach in his 20-plus year tenure in the NFL.
Jerry's just trying to –
just another puppet.
Jerry just, number one, needs a guy he can control. And number two, he just wants to do the opposite of what people want him to do at this point. I think a lot can be said about a team. I think Washington, when Dan Snyder had to sell the team, the new ownership came in, and look at what Washington has done. They've completely turned their entire franchise around in what? 1 year?
Basically.
1 year. And they care, but you can tell they care about winning because that ownership went all in on the team, not on the business part, but on the team itself to build it to win. They went out and got a winning head coach, a proven head coach, a great offensive coordinator, and a great quarterback. And you have those pieces in place. Their defense looked great. Washington just completely flipped the script. They're no longer a laughing stock.
They went from non-playoff contender to playing in the NFC Championship. So, I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know right there.
And Jerry just doesn't seem – he says he wants to go all in, but we saw last offseason where he signed Zeke, and that was it when we had a lot of needs that needed to be addressed in free agency. Jerry tries to address our needs
in the draft.
Well, you're maybe getting one if you're lucky, 2 great players in a draft. Not even great, just like good players that can play in the, on a roster. The rest of them probably won't make it through camp and or make it to the preseason, get cut after that type of thing. But he tries to address all the needs in the draft. You can't do that. You need to bring in free agents. You got to bring in great coaches. I mean, you need a good leader at the top. You need 2 good coordinators, and it trickles down from there. We have so many needs we need to address, and Jerry refuses to address them in the correct way every year.
I mean, I think at least me and Joseph here, a lot of Cowboys fans as well out there probably, I think we're past the point of, thinking we're going to be successful or winning under the Jerry Jones oppression
Regime.
Because that's what it is. They make our life absolutely miserable because we don't have we look forward to the football season, but as fans of the Dallas Cowboys, we don't have a lot to look forward to just because in our lifetime, it's been nothing but disappointment. Yep. We weren't alive to see the dynasty in the 90s.
We haven't seen an NFC Championship game. We haven't made it to the NFC Championship.
All we've seen is really great in the regular season, and then just choke it away in the in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we're just past the point of thinking it's going to happen.
And
Jerry Jones.
It starts with the fact that he waits so long to pay the players that need to be paid. So by the time he gets around to paying Dak, CD, the markets have already been reset, and he's having to pay them big money. And CD was worth the money, in my opinion. He's a true number 1 receiver. You need that from your team. On your team, you need a proven number 1 receiver. CD's great. Dak was not worth the money. Dak has not done anything to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. I think there's very few guys that should be making $60 million a year. Dak is not in that conversation of being an elite quarterback. He's done nothing to prove it, because to be a great quarterback, to be considered elite, it's not about your regular season performance. It's about your postseason performance. Mm-hmm. And Dak has crumbled in the postseason, except for the game against the Bucs when they were basically already beat up, and we won.
On their way out the door. And then the other thing, too, is waiting till the last second to sign a running back, because when we finally decided to get on the running back game in free agency last year, Derrick Henry was already gone, Saquon was already gone, Aaron Jones was already gone, Josh Jacobs was already gone. Those were the big names that were out there.
Yep.
And we waited, till the last possible second.
All of them had great seasons at their respective teams that they went to as well.
We wound up with Ezekiel Elliott, and it's like we needed to address the running back problem, but that honestly was not the solution, because he was worthless, utterly worthless.
No, he stopped playing for us by week 8, and Dowdle's a good 2 option. He's not really a running back 1. We need to draft. I think the running back thing could be fixed in the draft. We draft Genty, Scott. There's a lot of good running backs coming out of college this year. Hopefully we will address that in the draft. But we have so many other needs, and we don't have enough money to work with, because we're paying it all to 2 guys, and I think we're going to have to pay Micah this offseason, so probably 3 guys. And it's just so frustrating to watch us every season
do the same thing. Just leave it up to the draft, go into the season, and no matter what, Jerry's always going to put his foot in his mouth. He talks more to the media than any other owner we've ever seen. And he will say these things that will make us the laughing stock of the league. We're always being highlighted by the media, because rightfully so, because Jerry talks this talk and we just get embarrassed every single year. Yeah, he always says something, just along the lines of, I know what I'm doing or whatever.
I know better than everyone else.
Pretty much. And he'll always, make some, outrageous claim like we're going all in is what he's been saying, I feel like, for the last 3 years. And then all in has meant nothing. And then you get people like Dak, who he comes out after the Eagles won the Super Bowl and said, it's our turn. And it's like, it'll be our turn in 30 years. I think. But
maybe.
Not under what we have right now.
The Eagles are the blueprint. Like we talked about last week, the Eagles, as much as we hate to see them be successful, did everything correctly. They paid the right guys. They drafted the right guys. They went out and signed guys in free agency. They were very aggressive in free agency. And they put together a great team, had 2 great coordinators. And they went out and they won it all very convincingly. And so, Jerry, he's too proud to admit that, and he's too proud to try to copy somebody else. He's got to do it his own way, which is never the right way anymore. Maybe it was back in the 90s, but it's not that way anymore. And he likes to bring up the 90s as a fact that, he was good at one point. Well, it's been 30 years, and we're all tired of waiting. So I think we should sell the team. Steven comes out during the head coaching press conference and addresses he does air quotes around drought and that the Cowboys have been in. And if the ownership isn't even taking our drought seriously, then that trickles down to the coaches and the players.
Right.
The fans seem to be the only people who care about the drought that the Cowboys have been in. And we are in the longest drought in the NFC for an NFC championship appearance. Even somehow Washington figured it out before we did. So this has just been embarrassing. It was an embarrassing season. The season was over by week 7, I think. And since then, we've been nothing but a laughingstock to the league, rightfully so. And I've never seen an offseason where the fans have been this much out on the team because I haven't heard anything this year about how it could be our year.
No more. This is our year. Yeah. There's probably a billion things that would have to happen this offseason in order for it to be our year.
Yeah.
But at this point, we're just kind of waiting out ownership just because I don't think there's just too many things that need to happen that won't happen this offseason. Immediately with the head coaching hire. That was the very first issue that we addressed, and we picked probably one of the worst solutions out there.
We did not pick a qualified candidate out of the candidates we interviewed. That's nothing against Brian Schottenheimer. That's nothing against, any of the coaches he's hired on his staff, but we interviewed some good guys. Even Deion Sanders was in the mix. I think that would have been a better option than what we did. I just think, we went out and tried to just shock the world like we normally do. And, this was – and only time will tell. If Schottenheimer comes out and takes us to the Super Bowl, we'll be wrong about this. And I would be happy to be wrong about this. But it seems like he just hired another –
He just wants to keep everything in-house.
Yeah.
Keep it within.
He's big on keeping things in-house. Right. And it hasn't been working out for us because, we've done the same thing. We've been mediocre every year or really bad. It has never been. And really good in our terms is at least making it to the NFC Championship game.
Being competitive in the playoffs.
Yeah. At this point, if we made it to the playoffs next year, I'd be very skeptical of us winning a game.
Yeah.
So, we'll be talking about this a lot during the offseason because we will see other teams making big moves, big splashes, and we will see the Cowboys probably being pretty complacent.
Sitting back, waiting for the draft to happen.
Yeah. So we'll be addressing that a lot. I feel like we kept our heads pretty well during this episode, and,
we'll see what happens next time.
But we're also just coming off this Eagles Super Bowl last week. And, it just feels like there's no hope for the Cowboys. It's even tough to we don't – it's going to be tough to have a rivalry with the Eagles for the next few years when they're crushing us every game because we're doing nothing to stop it. So we're just in a really bad place here as Cowboys fans, a really bad place.
It just seems like there's no hope. There is no light at the end of the tunnel, unfortunately, on this one.
We're in a pit, not a tunnel. That's why.
But here's like to end our shows on Under Review. We're bringing it back to, the main event of this past week and this week. This quote is from Herb Brooks, and he's notorious for being the coach for the Team USA back during the Miracle on Ice. And he said, "Tonight we skate with them. Tonight we stay with them, and we shut them down because we can. Tonight we are the greatest hockey team in the world." And that is the truth.
That's the truth on Thursday night as we battle Canada for world dominance. And, we beat them on the battlefield before.
It's time to do it again.
It's time to do it again.
I know a lot of the players came out and said they had watched Miracle on Ice the night before.
Do it again.
I was about to say,
never gets old.
Wear the same underwear, do everything that you need to do.
More fights.
Just keep it rolling.
In the first 9 seconds.
I mean, you have to. You got to set the tone early.
It's not in Canada. It's in Boston, in the U.S. That'll be electric. Stadium should be rocking. Man, I would love to be there for that game.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
USA will come out and represent. There will be no booing during the national anthem. And I'm sure we'll respect the other anthem because we're more respectful. But
then as soon as puck drop starts, you just pound their face in. Please. And that's not even exaggeration. I mean, you saw it worked last game because that's the thing.
They're scared.
You compare side by side skill wise, they honestly have us beat. But they were out physicaled in every single way on Saturday.
You think tough when you think of the nation of Canada?
No, absolutely not.
So you do when you think of the United States of America. Tune in Thursday night and should be a good one. Thanks for tuning in to us this week. We'll see you next week with another episode of Under Review.